because you don't need to. People contact me and say, how do I get the bankruptcy off my credit report? So you can make a logical decision for what's right for you and your family. Life after bankruptcy is real, and life after bankruptcy works.
Welcome back to another episode of Law Unpacked, where we break down legal and financial concepts in ways that are practical, easy to understand, and designed to help you make informed decisions. I'm your host, Sean DeVries, and today's episode is all about rebuilding your financial life. Specifically, how to recover and rebuild your credit after bankruptcy. It's a topic that feels heavy, but our guest today makes it not just possible, but incredibly achievable. I'm thrilled to welcome Philip Tirone, the creator of the 720 Credit Score program. He has spent years helping people rebuild their credit, especially after they've hit rock bottom financially. Philip, thanks so much for joining me today.
Sean, great to be here.
I've got to tell you, the first time I actually met you in person was at a NACBUC conference, and man, we had just an enlightening dinner, and that's still one of my highlights of the year.
Oh yeah, in person. We had chatted before on Zoom and various things, and then we met for the first time in Colorado. I loved it. That
was great. So Philip, your journey is pretty incredible. From a small house in Mexico with 9 people to becoming a credit recovery powerhouse. I mean, that's not your typical corporate ladder story.
No, I don't know about a powerhouse. I'm not really a powerhouse, but I'm doing my best.
Well, tell me about how those early experiences shaped the way that you approach helping people bounce back from tough financial situations like bank.
Oh yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I think I come from the stance that we all have these like shadows in our closets that no one likes to talk about. And from a financial perspective, I can say definitively, I lived in LA for many, many years. I built this whole program out of LA. If you knew, Sean, who had signed up for my program, your clients wouldn't be embarrassed about their credit. I'm talking about athletes, movie stars, you name it. It's just credit's not something you talk about. And I lived it when I was in Los Angeles, and I went to deposit a check at Home Savings of America when that was still in business. And the lady said to me, the teller said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Tirone, you're overdrawn in your checking account. Would you like to apply for overdraft protection so you'll never have to pay the fees again?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "We're going to have to run your credit." And I thought to myself in real time, well, I mean, I have good credit. I mean, I pay my bills on time. She ran my credit in real time and came back and said, "I'm sorry, you've been denied." And I was like, did anyone just hear that? Like, I was embarrassed, right?
And I think we've all been there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of the things of like, And that's when I went back and I realized I had a collection and late payments on my credit report. And that's where this journey began. That was 1997. Man, it's come a long way. So,
well, hearing about you overcoming those financial challenges really resonates with me. One thing, Phil, you don't know about me is growing up, my dad, I came from a middle-class family. My dad was a factory worker, worked in the same place for 20 years. Mom's a nurse, and the factory closed up one day and decided we're moving everybody down to Georgia. We were from upstate New York. And it completely threw our family into financial uncertainty. And my parents eventually filed for bankruptcy. And so I really saw firsthand how devastating it can be to a family. So, I mean, it wasn't just about losing money. It was about losing a sense of stability. So, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. When I first met you, I said, this is the guy that we need to utilize to help our clients. And I know that you've helped many of our clients.
Well, it says a lot. Now I understand. That's an interesting piece because I didn't understand that service aspect with your dad or your mom being a nurse, right? That's service aspects in your DNA and understanding financial bankruptcy and how that works. That explains a lot to me about you, because there's a lot of bankruptcy attorneys who don't care about their clients. I mean, I have them. I mean, when I first got in the business, we started working with bankruptcy attorneys. I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 14,000 bankruptcy attorneys. And I realized after talking to many of them, a lot of them just don't care. They're like, oh no, I'm just going to bring a client in, get rid of their debt. I don't want to talk to them again. And the people who we work with, they have a service aspect and mindset, and that says a lot. that's all you, Sean.
Well, we do our best to, I'm in this business to help others, and that's reason that we're doing this podcast today is so hopefully maybe if I can't help somebody, they see this podcast and know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
All right. Yeah.
So most people think of a credit score like a report card you get from a teacher. Did I pass? Did I fail? But you've always said it's so much bigger than that. How does
Yeah.
credit, especially after someone files for bankruptcy or has a financial issue, become a tool that just helps people rebuild not only their finances, but their entire life?
Well, so first of all, the number of people who come to me ahead of time and say, I need to improve my credit score so I can get out of debt, right? I mean, this is a logical concept. Oh, if I can lower my interest rates, I can pay off my debt quicker. But the reality is the reason why people file bankruptcy, as you know, Sean, it's typically because of job loss, some type of accident that occurs. It's very seldom where people just go run up debt and don't care about it. Like that's a small percentage. And even those people, sometimes there's a learning curve that happens. I remember I ran up a lot of debt out of college, not realizing that I couldn't afford it. So the first thing is people come to us and say, I got to get rid of this. I got to raise my credit score to get rid of debt. And I always pause when I hear that and say, well, it may be different. It may be that you may need to get rid of your debt in a significant way to rebuild your credit score. And the reason why is, if you can't pay off your debt in a year and a half, 2 years, it's hard to dig out because of the interest rates you're paying. You're paying 15, 20, 25%, sometimes 30% interest rate on credit cards, and it's impossible to dig out. So so anytime I talk to someone like that, the first thing I say is, hey, look at your options. But then after that, credit rebuilding is easy. Bankruptcy is not a death trap. It's a pivot in the road. So one, what did you learn from the experience? And two, what do you have to do to get your show back on the road? And what we've talked about, and your clients understand because they've gone through our program, after a bankruptcy, you can have a 720 credit score in 12 to 24 months. And by the way, we've had people have a credit score, 720 credit score in 6 months with a bankruptcy still on the program, on their credit report. And the reason is they just learned to rebuild around the bad credit and get all the errors off. So my point of the whole thing, I rambled a little bit, but I want to know, one, sometimes you got to look at your options in the beginning. And second of all, we understand that bankruptcy is not the end. It's the beginning of your new life.
And so you talk a lot about 720. Why that number? Now, it's my understanding that you came from a mortgage background, right? Is that you're a mortgage officer? And why was that the magic number?
Well, at the time, that was like a line of demarcation that everyone talked about. At this point, you can get FHA loans at 620. You can get it. It really doesn't matter. But at 720, it's a number that is known in the industry of like a good credit score, right? Now, 720 is really the minimum number you need. And part of the program of rebuilding your credit after bankruptcy is one, reestablish new credit routes, and two, making sure errors don't come on your credit report. And once you understand these simple rules, it's simple. But a lot of people just don't understand these rules, and they get caught up in this trap of overpaying for your car, your home insurance, your car insurance, you name it, literally for decades. So 720 is sort of like a known number for good credit.
So your 720 credit score program, it's been the go-to program for people who are looking to rebuild after bankruptcy. I've heard nothing but good things. Most, if not all of my clients have been through your program. What's the secret sauce behind it? Why does it work so well? And why do other programs just run flat?
Well, because, first of all, we stand in truth. We don't, like, the credit repair industry is so dirty and it's so dark that they had to pass a federal law called the Credit Repair Organization Act. against the scammers. I mean, it is horrible, right? Because people promise the world, oh, pay me $1,000 and get your credit cleaned up. But what they're doing are illegal acts. In fact, when I realized I had my bad credit when I was a mortgage broker, I hired a credit repair guy to improve my credit score. And I got a notice from TransUnion saying, I'm sorry, or they didn't say sorry. They said, your credit report is frozen due to fraudulent activity. Well, what fraudulent activity? Well, you sent in this letter stating that this was an error and it's not. They happened to spot check it. And it was a letter that I didn't sign, but my credit repair company sent it. So I realized at that moment, look, I can't use these credit repair guys. We just stand for truth. Like, the federal FTC says you cannot dispute an error that you know is legitimate. So we don't dispute errors that we know are legitimate because you don't need to. People contact me and say, how do I get the bankruptcy off my credit report? I'm like, you don't have to get, did you have a bankruptcy? Well, yeah, I had a bankruptcy. Then we're not going to get off your credit report. So that's why I think it works. And this is why I believe that bankruptcy attorneys like yourself, Sean, use us because we're not promising the world and doing things that are illegal. I mean, we follow the rules and you can still get the great benefit. Like you're not going to get a 720 credit score in 30 days. But actually, I don't believe people actually believe that stuff anyways. So that's what my guess is.
It's interesting because, as you were sitting there talking, I actually subscribed to one of those credit repair companies a long time ago when I was an undergraduate, and just remember paying, I don't know, $20 or $50 a month, which was a lot of money at that time. I was a college student and just thinking, well, they didn't do anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And now that $20 and $50 a month is like $100 and $150 a month. I mean, it is shocking.
You're showing my age there, Phil.
Well, I'm just telling you, it's shocking how these organizations. I mean, there was the big organization that almost practically just got shut down. Lexington Law. They had a 1,800,000 past clients. 800,000. They were paying hundreds of dollars a month. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like that model is you pay for as long as you pay, and we'll do the work based on this. And like that's a little weird. It's like, with what we teach, learn the rules and you won't need us. Matter of fact, we tell people, like you tell your clients, hey, you work with Sean DeVries and you get enrolled in our program, pass the information on to your kids and grandkids. Pass it on to your friends. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I tell people openly, share the password. It's okay. It's not a big deal because life after bankruptcy is real and life after bankruptcy works. And you don't have to look farther than go to our 720 credit score Facebook page. You see people standing in front of their new home, their new car. I mean, we're talking a year, 2 years after bankruptcy, buying things that they couldn't afford before. So it works, and it's exciting to see the transformation. And plus, these people learn from their experience that they can pass down to their kids, right? When you have a bankruptcy, you learn from it and say, okay, kids, let me share with you what I learned. So the cycle is stopped, right?
Absolutely. And
so like the same thing your parents did for you, actually. Your parents had to file, and now you're the counselor. It's amazing.
That's a full circle.
Amen.
Well, let's say somebody just came out of bankruptcy and they're thinking, I'll chill for a while and focus on credit later. You say that's a huge mistake. Why is it so important to start rebuilding your credit right away after bankruptcy?
Well, because the time it takes to fix it is the same. So you file bankruptcy today or whenever. Let's just say you file today and you discharge January 2025. Then it's going to take you somewhere between 12 and 24 months. But if you wait a year and file January 2026, it's going to take between a year and 2 years. And you're just pushing it down the road, the timeline. It's not something where it's like, oh, I have to wait for the bankruptcy to age on my credit report. No, you just push the timeline down the road.
But we hear all sorts of horror stories about bankruptcy and credit, like you'll never get a credit card again, or say goodbye to your financial future. What's the biggest myth about bankruptcy and credit that you've heard And what's the truth?
Well, I mean, one great misconception I hear is that like the bankruptcy can hurt me for 10 years. Myth. The truth is that it's a nothing burger. Like literally, if I've had people that I've counseled, hey, consider bankruptcy, and they think about it for years, and then after they file, they're like, oh my God, this is the best decision I've ever made. Okay, that's misconception. 10 years. Truth, it's instant. It's an instant relief. Another misconception is I won't be able to buy anything after my bankruptcy. My credit score is going to be too bad. That's a misconception. The truth is you can buy a car during an active bankruptcy and get a lower rate than you can before the bankruptcy because the banks realize you're not going to file bankruptcy again. And we see people do it all the time. Another misconception, rebuilding your credit after bankruptcy. It's actually easier to rebuild your credit after a bankruptcy than if you're trying to figure out how to pay off your own credit over 2, 3, 4 years. It's just too hard. It doesn't work. So those are some misconceptions and truth. And I'm convinced that all these misconceptions were part of a PR campaign by the banks and creditors. Because how many times have you heard your bank say to you, just make one more payment? Just one more payment. Just one more payment. Right, Sean? I mean, you hear clients say that all the time.
Sure.
One more payment. Because that one more payment is hundreds of dollars and huge on their ROI. And that's why I say, no. Like, talk to someone who knows. Not everybody qualifies for bankruptcy, Sean. Like they got to call your office to get a feel of, will this work for me or not, right? And that's a whole thing, another thing that I just want to bring up. Don't be concerned about talking to a counselor or like a bankruptcy attorney like Sean, because it may not work for you. Right now, you're just collecting data points, and based on that information, you can make an honest, fair assessment what's best for you and your family.
So let's say someone's coming out of bankruptcy. They filed, or they just filed, or they just got their discharge. What's the very first move they should make to start rebuilding their credit? What's one small win that they can make them feel like, okay, I've got.
Okay, well, it boils down to three things, and I'll go through all three because it's so easy, right? The most important thing is a review of the credit report. You got to get the errors off the credit report. With your office, I know, you pay us to review everyone's credit report after the bankruptcy, right? And put them through the 720 credit score program. Out of all the people filed bankruptcy, we've had over 125,000 people through the program, probably even more than that now, but we've had a lot of people through the program. 42% of the times we review a credit report, we find an error. 42%. So the number one thing after bankruptcy, get the credit report reviewed and cleaned up. And with your client, Sean, we will find the errors. We will send out certified letters on their behalf, free. And then in 45 days, we rerun the credit and make sure that the errors are off. And if they're not, we don't stop until they're clean. So that's the first thing, thanks to DeVries Law Firm, Law Office of Sean DeVries. The second thing is you got to get 3 new credit cards. Now, people say, well, these interest rates are so high because you just had a bankruptcy. And I say, don't worry about it because you're not going to have these credit cards long. You're going to have these credit cards for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever. Just get 3 credit cards, charge one thing on them every month, pay it off. One thing, pay it off. Okay. And the third thing is get some type of installment line. Now, this is a monthly payment that's set for a set period of time. That can be a car you buy after the bankruptcy. It has to be after the bankruptcy, or a credit rebuilder program like credit that we offer through Evergreen Financial Counseling. It's these set payments that are reported to the bureaus as an installment line. Those 3 things, you don't have to do anything else. You'll have a 720 credit score in 12 to 24 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so most people think of credit as something you need for a car loan or mortgage, but rebuilding credit after bankruptcy opens up so many more opportunities. What are some of the long-term benefits of a strong credit score that people don't even realize they're missing out on?
Well, I mean, let's just talk about practical benefits. Are you ever going to go anywhere that you need to rent a car? Like I had a lady on a question and answer session. Hey, I couldn't rent a car with my debit card, right? Like this is the problem. Dave Ramsey talks about this all the time. Oh, you don't need credit. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you need credit. And then what about the things that you can do to fundamentally change the outlook and the path and the trajectory for your family forever? So, for example, buying a home with an FHA loan, 3.5% down. I mean, that's within reach of everybody, right? And it doesn't matter if you're not there net yet, maybe you don't have the job yet, but at 3.5% down, anyone can save 3.5% to buy a home with an FHA loan. And the difference between a 720 credit score and a 620 credit score can be hundreds of dollars a month on that mortgage. Hundreds of dollars. Other things is like rent. Well, if you're not ready to buy yet, well, guess what? You're going to go into your landlord and you're filling an application. And landlords are not always sophisticated to understand what credit scoring is. So what do? They look at just the credit score and they say up or down. Shouldn't be like that, but it is. So these are like simple things, Sean.
One of your program is full of like practical steps, and you mentioned you got to get 3 credit cards right away. What's the one thing that people totally overlook when trying to raise their credit score?
Overlook. Well, I would say a big blind spot that they worry about the wrong things. Like they're worried about inquiries. Oh my gosh, I have 9 inquiries on my report this last month. If you go through our 7-step program, you'll notice it never mentions inquiries. The only thing it mentions about inquiries is not to worry about them. And I just think people focus on wrong things. And I tell them, look, we all have lives, right? We have kids, we have jobs, we have family that needs our attention. And let's focus on the easy stuff, the stuff that really matters and not everything. And that's why I'm very specific on what to focus on and what you don't have to focus on.
Well, most people think that credit scores only matter when you're trying to borrow money, but rebuilding credit after bankruptcy affect things like a job or the rates people pay for insurance.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, what other things does your credit affect? I know you mentioned your leases, buying a rental car or getting a rental car. Any other practical things that people may not think of is why?
Come to think it, I would just say what I constantly say is insurance, buying a car, buying a home, renting a car, but those are really the things that I see the most. Insurance. Did we mention that? You mentioned insurance, right? I believe. So
I
yeah,
did.
so
Yeah.
that's what I would be focused on.
Well, Philip, I know you've invested heavily in personal and business coaching, working with some of the great names such as Dan Kennedy, and that's really a serious commitment to personal growth.
Really?
If somebody's going through these steps, how would working with a coach benefit them?
Oh, well, I'm a huge advocate of Goodell's law. And Goodell's law, he was a scientist, I believe in the 20th century, maybe the 18th century, but he basically said you can't understand the system you're in. You can't understand the system you're in. And the nice thing about a coach is they can look at things and say, oh no, you're missing this blind spot. I took my son golfing yesterday. I'm videoing. It's like, why'd I slice it? Oh, take a look at that. You're a little flat on your thing, on your swing. And that's the thing about, coaching. You find the coach of someone who's been there before, and it's an easy way to gather information fast. I mean, it's like a debtor or someone who's heavily in debt right now, maybe watching this, confused. They're confused about what to do. They're isolated because who are you going to talk to? I mean, you're not bringing it up at dinner party, and you're going to bring it up to someone who maybe not has the best financial acumen to begin with. So when you're confused and you're isolated, you become powerless. So when you bring in someone out from an outsider perspective to just give you your options, it's a win. It's a win. So I'm a big advocate in coaching, as I know you are, John.
I am. I do believe in coaching because I feel like having a coach can get you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And a lot quicker than if you're just trying to go through the steps yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch topics just a little bit here, Philip. And this is a question I've got to ask this. Um, I've seen your videos where you dive into some financial issues like the Sacramento employment tax, and you've got
Yeah.
some serious fire in you. Have you ever thought about running for office?
Oh no, I will not run for office. But I got a passion for how would I describe this? I have a passion for you know, I believe in human ingenuity. And I believe that people can solve their problems. I really believe that. Like as I'm raising my kids, I'm like, look, I don't like I failure is okay. So speaking of, we have 5 kids, so I have a lot of sons and a lot of daughters. So I'll talk about like various sons and daughters opaquely and privately. And so one of my sons didn't pass his driver's test this week, and the guy came to me and talked to me, and my son went inside to reset the new appointment, and I was like, what happened? And he told me. He said, wow, you know, we chatted back and forth for a couple minutes, and then he said, I said, okay, well, if you didn't pass, you didn't pass, right? Like, and he's like, wow, I've had parents want to put me in a headlock, and I'm like, well, I mean, here's the thing, it's like you follow the rules, right? And either you pass or you don't pass. He's like, you're old school, but I don't relate to that. And failure of my son is like, like big. First of all, it's a big deal. It's nothing, right? It's a driver's test, but it'll teach him humility, patience, whatever it does. And I really believe that fundamentally, like with all of us. This goes to your debtors listening to this. It's like, hey, where you are today with 20,000 debt or 40 or 50,000 debt does not define who you are. You can learn from that experience and move on and help others. And really, that's where I go with the human ingenuity. We can solve all problems as long as we have the right people around us, and we don't necessarily have to rely on the government to solve problems for us. Now, there's certain problems I want them to solve. For example, like if we're being attacked from other countries, okay, solve those problems, right? And like, criteria for airplanes, solve those problems, right? But not the simple problems that we can solve. So you get
Sure.
the drift.
Absolutely. So I'm going back real quick to that Sacramento employment tax video. I mean, that was 14 years ago, and you were fired up, man. I haven't seen you that fired up, but what happened with that? You were fired up, and all of a sudden it was gone. So it either passed or it didn't pass. So what was
Well,
what
so
happened?
I mentioned earlier that I lived in LA, right? And we lived by this wonderful park called Rancho Park. We used to take the kids there all the time. We had 3 kids at the time. And we get a letter from the mayor of LA saying, you know, due to budgeting constraints, we're either going to have to do one thing: is charge fees to the residents or close the park 3 days a week. And I was like, what a horrible letter to send out. Like, first of all, there's no accountability of like, what, we didn't budget right or whatever, or what, we're going to cut costs and let me solve it's a park. It's like 50 acres of grass and like 8 tennis courts and like 4 bathrooms. Okay. I mean, we're not talking complicated stuff here. And that started our move to Arizona. That started that letter. And I was like, you know what? If this is the way you're going to use our money, I'll choose like my own, like I mentioned, I want to solve my own problems. I don't want to rely on you. And I'm choosing to solve my problem by moving to Arizona. And it's just how I operated. And we moved. So I don't remember what happened with No to Sacramento, but I believe, I mean, I'm assuming it passed. I mean, are you kidding me? California has some of the highest taxes in the country. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And it was ironic that they were trying to do that right in 2009, the heart of the recession. And I mean, probably not a worse time to do it, but wow,
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
Well, Philip,
Yeah.
you've helped so many people who feel like they've hit rock bottom after bankruptcy. For someone listening right now who's in that same boat and feels like there's no way out, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them to start rebuilding their credit and maybe even their confidence?
Well, I think even before you rebuild the credit, you don't want to rebuild the credit if you're not sure what you're going to do with the debt. So, and I've said this multiple times, hundreds of times probably on our question and answer sessions. The first thing you need to do is talk to sort of like someone like you, Sean, right? Bankruptcy attorney. And if you want to talk to someone like a debt settlement company or something like that, a relief company, that's fine. You can talk to a nonprofit like Evergreen Financial Counseling to get data, right? And understand what your options are so you can make a logical decision for what's right for you and your family. And then you can make the decision what to do on credit rebuilding and stuff like that. That's the first step.
And Philip, if some folks listening to this video right now want to find out more about you or your 7 steps to a 720 credit score, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Just go to 720creditscore.com and you'll click on that website. You'll see information on the credit rebuilder program that's serviced through Evergreen Financial Counseling. Or you can also, if you need a credit card to help rebuild your credit, you can get credit cards there. But really, just 720creditscore.com is the best.
Well, Philip, thank you again for being on the show today. Your insights have been incredibly helpful, and I know our listeners are walking away with some real action steps that they can take to turn things around for them.
Well, thank you.
For anyone out there who feels stuck in their financial situation, just remember your credit score isn't a life sentence, and there are real practical ways to bounce back. Be sure to check out Philip's program at 720creditscore.com to get started on your journey to financial recovery. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with someone who could really use this advice right now. I'm Sean DeVries, and this is Unpacked. Until next time, take control of your finances and your future.